COVID-19 created a year of challenges, but one thing remained unchanged: the love that American consumers have for beef.
I think we've learned a number of things about consumer behavior during the pandemic. One has been on the beef side, that consumers still want beef in their diets. It's been remarkable that even in the early stages of the pandemic, when grocery store shelves were empty, it made sense that things like flour or rice, these shelf-stable items, would have flown off the shelves. But interestingly, meat and beef in particular also were in high demand among consumers as they stocked their fridges and freezers.
Dr. Jason Lusk is the head of the Department of Agricultural Economics at Purdue University. As a food economist, it's his job to study what people eat and why. Dr. Lusk observed that over the past year, as the pandemic shuttered many restaurants, consumers bought more beef at retail and prepared more home-cooked meals.
Of course, during the pandemic, we were eating out a lot less demand and product sales to restaurants. And that has an impact on demand and on different parts of the animal. Chucks, rounds, parts of the primal that we tend to use in making ground beef have done quite well through the pandemic. Apparently, they're at a price point that a lot of consumers are willing to buy, and it's also a product many consumers are accustomed to and feel comfortable using at home in their own kitchens.
Normally, an increase in demand would be a positive, but the pandemic hit processors hard, as some of the largest packing plants in the country were forced to shut down as COVID-19 spread among their employees.
When we were really in the depths of the problems associated with the meatpacking shutdowns, there were lots of statements like the food system is broken. And I didn't think that was an accurate statement, but at the same time, I thought that the meat sector was in very serious critical condition. Consumers were wanting meat on their plate, and we were uncertain about whether we would be able to keep those grocery stores stocked, despite how bad it was in the moment. Within a month or so, at least in terms of total processing numbers, we got ourselves back to something that looked a little more normal. And it does speak to, at least the system was more resilient than might appear, despite the fact that in the moment, I think it was a really worrying and concerning situation.
Now that many of the processing issues have been fixed, Dr. Lusk believes there's a real opportunity for farmers and ranchers to either start or increase the amount of beef they sell directly to consumers.
We seem to see increased interest among consumers for direct-to-consumer marketing and for more local, more regional processors where they at least feel that there's a more secure supply of beef. And so I think there are already opportunities at the moment, and probably over the next several years will continue to be opportunities for producers to have a more direct link with the food consumers than they've had in the past.
Dr. Lusk has one additional bit of advice on how producers can protect their operations against future disruptions.
One classic way of trying to reduce risk is to make sure you have multiple products or multiple markets that you can cater to. Is there a different crop you can grow, a different set of animals, or a different set of market opportunities you can reach out to, even if it's all cattle? Are there different segments that you can target in different ways? So I think that's also a form of insurance and risk mitigation.
Even though there's still some uncertainty in the U.S. economy and in the beef industry, Dr. Lusk says cattle producers have reason to be optimistic since demand has been strong.
Despite a lot of the turmoil that we lived through over the course of the last year, it's still the case that beef demand is very strong. It's been a lot of volatility, but our estimates suggest, for example, that wholesale beef demand is 15% higher now than it was at the beginning of 2019. So consumer demand has been strong, and I think that's a really positive and hopefully comforting message for a lot of livestock producers.
Bottom line, the numbers show beef remains the food consumers want when times are good or when faced with a crisis. I'm Matt Fleck, reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.